So in episode 19, this is kind of a follow-up, I talked about how you can move from one position to the other. And this kind of plays off of developing purposeful habits. And one of the things is you can learn how to do, and that is learn how to move from one position, feel where that person is relative to your body, and then go somewhere else. One of the advantages that you have in those arts that make a lot of physical contact, and this is actually how the grappling arts actually work. It's not so much just the techniques. I mean, yeah, of course, you got to have technique. I'm not saying the techniques don't work. What I'm saying, though, is how the practitioners really do what they do is because through kinesthetic awareness, they sensorially feel the movement of another person's body. They learn to recognize the patterns, and because you can feel faster than a person can move, they're then, as soon as they're recognizing the pattern, they're setting up the move, or they're catching people in different positions, and that's how they set the move up. And of course, a person with more experience and knowledge within those grappling arts, they recognize when those moves are getting put on them, or they recognize something that doesn't feel right, and then they counter it, and on, and you kind of have the chess match. So it's the same thing. So whether you're doing warrior flow or whatever, you're doing Tai Chi, Bagua, Sing Yi, or even if you're doing Okinawan Te or any kind of art where there's a lot of contact or direct contact, even with the Filipino knife fighting stuff, how it really works is not just the technique. It's also, you're playing off of what you're experiencing in the moment in time and space. And the reason is if you're not sensorially feeling this stuff, you're never going to be able to respond fast enough. That's just the way it works. So when I move from one position to the next, the key, as I learned from my masters, is it all starts and originates in the feet. The body unity starts in the feet when you're standing up. So let's say, for example, we got past, talking about each other's mothers and all that stuff, right? We're in the fight and Jack's hand is here and I'm trying to get his hand off. It's not enough to just get his hand off because you just bring it back around like the Three Stooges and slap me in the back of the head. What I want to do is, as I'm clearing this, I want to start repositioning my body, and I can feel that in my legs, to drive to the new place I want to hit. In other words, it all starts with this simple concept. And again, it goes back to the previous video where I talked about developing purposeful habits. Because I can feel where he is relative to my body, and because I know where I'm at, or at least I should know where I'm at, hopefully I know where I'm at, right? I can also feel internally what is known as interoception. I can actually feel the shifting of my weight. I can feel the shifting of my weight on one foot or the other. I can feel my muscles engaging as I want to push in another direction. So I also know wherever my hands are, wherever my arms are, if I move them, he can feel that. And because he can feel that as I move them, it kind of gives it away. So what I want to do is I want to learn to move my body first, even in the slightest movement. I'm kind of actually exaggerating what it is. Even in the slightest movement, once I start moving toward the future, because all movement is fractal in nature, meaning this motion here, no matter how gross looking it looks, originated right in here. And so what I'm doing is, without giving my hands up and without giving it away with my hands as I was, instead of doing this, I start moving the body first. Now I can still do this to clear his hands, but I want to do it a microsecond after the fact, because if I move my hands too soon and then I try to move, I may end up walking into his fist because he's still tracking me. He can still feel that. Even if he's not aware he has that ability, because he's a human being just like I am, and his sensorial processing works on a fundamental level the same way mine does. So I'm not trying to give it away. So as I'm moving, say I'm here and let's say he cleared my arm, or I feel like he's going to clear my arm, what I'm going to do is pushing from this leg, from the root into this position, I'm going to get past his elbow, and then I'm going to hit. But I'm not going to do this and do this because he's going to let it drop, and he's going to end up hitting me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shift and start moving to the place I know I need to be in the future to do that. So what looks like, and I know because sometimes I get questions about, people notice a lot of times when I start hitting, sometimes I look like a boxer. Sometimes I look like a Wing Chun guy. Sometimes I look like, a karate guy, whatever. Me, I really don't care. I don't care. And the reason is you can only do so many things with your hands, and it's all good stuff. A punch is a punch, a kick is a kick. Charlie Nelson used to have the greatest expression. A kick in the balls is a kick in the balls is a kick in the balls. Meaning, it doesn't matter what types of kicks I use. If I kick you in the balls, it's probably going to be a problem for you. I'm all about that. So as I'm moving from one position to the other, just like I demonstrated on the bag, let's say I want to hit here, but I'm afraid he may end up hitting me with his hands or hitting me as I'm trying to move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my motion and I'm going to push from the root, and then I'm going to get there. I may even hit the hand out of the way as I do it. The reason I push from the root is because the harder I push, the faster I can get to the next root point. If I do like this slow thing, okay, that's one thing. But if I push hard, it forces me not only to shift my center of gravity quickly, but it also gets my body in the position I need it to be in the future as quickly as possible. Now, there are people in the martial arts, because I always have to say these things, kind of these disqualifiers, who say you can't do this stuff under duress. Yet I see people doing it in real fights all the time. And I always say, listen, if a tennis player can go back and forth and do what they do, you know, and they got millions of dollars in the line, so you're not going to tell me that their adrenaline isn't going. Don't tell me people can't do this, because I'm not asking you to win Wimbledon. I'm asking you to get out of the way, hit the guy in the throat and get out of there, you know, before his buddies show up. So as I'm moving from one position to the next, I'm pushing from the root, but I'm still feeling my way through the fight. And because I'm pushing from one position to the next of wherever I need to go, I'm able to make all of these different adjustments because I still feel where they are relative to my body. When you're practicing this, if you're working with a partner, you got to use caution because it's inherently dangerous. You know, if Jack's doing it on me, he's just pushing, going back and forth. So I'm kind of like giving him a little bit of resistance so I don't fall like that. But I'm really not trying to force too much against him, because what happens is, even though he may not mean to knock me out, and even though he's keeping it on the body for safety, I may end up, if I'm moving a little too crazy, I may end up walking into it. So you just got, I'm not saying you can't practice it fast with your partner, but you got to use common sense. You know, Colonel, Bob Fawcett used to have a great saying when I was in the Marine Corps, and that was always, train to the edge and not beyond it. And then he would quantify it. Listen, in training, you can be as dangerous as you want. Just don't be stupid. So in your training, you can take it right to the edge. If you want to get up around the head, get up around the head. If you want some rib shots, get some rib shots in. But just don't be stupid. So hopefully you get something out of how you can practice this after you, with a partner, after you've done it on the bag. It's not a hard skill per se in concept. The hardest part really is getting into the habit of moving the body first, starting to move the body first, pushing from the root. If I want to go forward, I push from the root. If I want to go back, I push from the root. Whatever I'm doing, I'm pushing from the root, even if all I'm doing is shifting my hips, just like a boxer would as he's dropping a shot in or doing an uppercut. It's still pushing from the roots. The same stuff over and over and over. Nothing changes.